and we are live to those who can see and hear us. Yay. All right, we are getting kind of things set up and everything. Let people get connected and all that. Boop, boop.
And to the folks coming in, oh, they're not coming in yet. In the comments.
Thank you for being here. All right, all my post things are done. Okay. Phew. And my channel just passed 4,000 subscribers, so I'm happy. It's a nice number. Yeah. The last month saw 700 and some odd new subscribers in a month. So I'm really happy about that. It has some nice momentum going on. I feel like I need to like graph it out though, so that I feel official about it. See it in a chart or something like that. Feels like the thing that somebody who takes this stuff seriously might need to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Hi, Tay.
The video that you put in about the existential threat to humanity thing. Are we playing that with audio? Just out of curiosity.
If you play it at all, you play it with audio. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, because it doesn't have much going on in video. So
no.
Okay.
You don't really need to play it. I don't think it's only a minute and a half. And it's actually I should have listened to it. It's actually halfway in where it gets to the point.
Yeah, and I pulled kind of like the pertinent quotes. So if we don't have time to play that,
that's fine. That's fine.
We might just save playing the video for the generation thing that you did a little bit later. But okay. Let's see here. Do I have everything all set up? I think I do.
So hello, Jesse. Hello, Daniel. By the way, because I am now streaming through StreamYard onto Twitter and LinkedIn, it won't let me comment within StreamYard. It used to.
Oh, that removes your ability to comment? I didn't know. Or comment? I didn't realize that. Oh, that's lame. I wonder why that is. It doesn't make sense. It's not like you can't, like I can comment on all the things.
And when you comment on StreamYard, it goes on to YouTube?
Yeah.
Right. It won't let me do that.
Oh, that's so strange.
Even though I'm not streaming to YouTube, I'm only streaming to Twitter and LinkedIn. But it says, can't post comments to any of your current destinations. Okay, well, I thought it would. No.
I wonder why that is. That's puzzling to me, considering the system is so, designed around that. It seems like to me anyways. But, okay, well, y'all have to pretend like Jeff can comment to you.
Yeah.
And I never do because I'm too busy kind of like pushing buttons and stuff like that. So I always feel a little guilty because everybody's in there. I wish that I could do all the things, but I kind of have to run the show. The technology.
You only have so many fingers.
Totally. And so much like focus, so many places that I can put my attention. Sometimes you can look in the comments and it totally, takes you out of the conversation. Maybe if there was like a third person on, I had the bandwidth to do that. But when it's just you and me, I feel like I can't distract myself. So, okay. Well, we've got people still streaming in, and that number is slowly rising, but it is 10:04. And so let's go ahead and kick it off here.
And a reminder to folks at the end, Jason's going to do a rude and quick goodbye so that otherwise the editing goes on. So when he says it's the end, that'll be the end. So bye now.
I say it's the end. It's the end. So basically, exactly what Jeff said. Thank you. That's a good reminder. That really helped last week because that allowed me to kind of do some of my stuff faster because I didn't have to cut off the very end and then wait a day, essentially. YouTube's kind of weird like that. Okay. Just finalizing all the little bits of media that I need. And I think we are good to go. One more thing here. Sorry. I do wish this screen that I'm using, I wish it was like 20% larger than it is. Sometimes it's too small for all the things I need to do on it. Okay, cool. Well, you good to go, Jeff?
Yep.
Right on. I will remove you from the stage momentarily. I will, here in a second, remove myself from the stage too. All right, everybody, stand by. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of AI Inside, the show where we take a look at the AI that is layered like a nice, delicious lasagna through so many things that we use and hopefully do not eat. I am one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined as always by my co-host, Jeff Jarvis. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey there. I've started using the lasagna thing all over now. So I'm gonna stick with it. Maybe
it makes sense.
Or a Napoleon, but that might be a little more confusing.
Or Napoleon, is it Napoleon or Neapolitan?
That's ice cream. You could do that too. Napoleon is the puff pastry thing, but I think lasagna works. I think lasagna works.
For some reason, we feel the need to describe our AI as if it's food. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with being hungry.
It's a Big Mac.
It's a Big Mac. Okay, sorry. For a second there, I thought you said Big Mac, and I was like, where is he going with this? It's a Big Mac. That's true. You've got the bread on the middle, the cheese.
Right.
I mean,
you get the cheese
layers.
Layer, the sauce layer.
So many delicious layers.
Pickles. What's the pickle layer? I like this. I might switch. I don't know.
There we go. Well, every week we can have a different analogy. That's the beauty of having a weekly show. It's really up to us to choose. Good to see you, Jeff. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. Real quick, though, before we get started, a huge thank you to those of you who support us each and every week on Patreon. We could not do the show without you. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. And you could have your name called out at the top of the show, like Tom Ruffley. Thank you, Tom, for being a supporter on the Patreon. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. And if you are not a subscriber to the podcast in general yet, do it right now. Go over, open up your podcatcher, subscribe. Even if you enjoy watching it live on the YouTube channel when we stream it, you can still be subscribed to the podcast for those random weeks where you miss the video live stream or you miss the video download a little bit later. So there we go. So, Jeff, this is one of those rare moments where where in the world of like journalistic parlance, it is a thing called embargo, and an embargo has lifted for a thing that I got last week when I was at the Made by Google event. I got my hands on the Pixel 9 phone.
Oh, FOMO jealous.
I know. It was pretty nice. I had to, of course, sign a loan agreement. So this is not my phone. I'm giving it back to Google when I'm all done with it. Probably a ways down the road, though, because one of the big things about the Pixel 9 and just, what Google is doing in general, and we've certainly talked about it a lot on this show, is they're really going all in, like head first on AI everything. And that's why we're even talking about it on today's show at all. And I thought it'd show off, if you're interested, Jeff, some of the stuff that I've seen and interacted with so far in my short amount of time. It's only been 6 days. I did actually publish a video just moments ago, actually, at the time of this recording, to my YouTube channel with a long kind of preview of the Pixel 9 from a hardware perspective, yes, but also from an AI perspective. It's not a review because, like I said, I've only had this device for 6 days now, but there's a lot of really cool AI features on it. And some of the stuff that we've talked about in the past that I thought, we could kind of show off. And I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you think about it. So let me see here. Let me see if I can rank, and probably for audio listeners, this might be a little bit more interesting if you are watching video. So youtube.com/@techsploder if you want to check out the video of this stuff. But
let me ask you a bottom line first.
Okay.
Real quick. Since I'm considering, I've got a 6 myself. I'm considering it after
oh my
a
goodness,
week
you're
on
on 6.
I'm on 6. I'm behind. After a week, just bottom line, if you were me, would you buy the 9?
I feel like you are so dialed in on technology. So you're not the everyday user, let's say. If you had, if you were an everyday user and you had the 6, do you have to upgrade to the 9? Maybe not. You also have an interest in artificial intelligence and everything that lies there. That's why we do this show. I would say for you, sure. And I think that they have some pretty good trade-in deals. Even if you have the 6, you're probably going to get a good trade-in value for it through Google, especially if you do that now. Right. But I mean, these devices, they have 7 years of update promise. So you get this, the 9 has the Tensor G4, which the rest of the Pixel 9 series has. So it's not like because this is the baseline model, you get less processor. You do get less RAM. You get 12 gigs instead of 16 gigs. But it would be an excellent step up from the 6. The 6 is now 3 years old.
Will you write a note to my wife justifying this?
Well,
she holds on to her phones forever.
Yeah, you're going to be able to convince her a lot easier than I am. That's my gut. But yeah, I think it's a really wonderful phone, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So one of the things that I think, Jeff, that you are probably going to be interested in, if I can get this up here, I've got my little demo set up here, so hopefully things look okay, is Gemini Live, which is part of the premium kind of subscription. If you buy the Pixel 9s, not including the baseline, any of the other Pixel 9s, you get a year's worth of Gemini Live included.
Which would cost $20 a month, right?
That's right. That's right. Otherwise, it would cost $20 a month. But this is going to be interesting. This is one of the demos that I did in my video, but I'll see if I can kind of recreate it here and do it in a way that you can hear all the audio and everything. So I'm going to kick into Gemini Live mode, and I'll have a conversation. Okay. Hi, Gemini. How are you doing?
Hey there. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. It's always nice to hear from someone new. What's on your mind today?
Maybe I'll just hold it up to the mic so that people can hear. Sorry, Gemini, that wasn't meant for you. I've got a phone on my table, and I don't know what phone this is. It's really unique looking. I'm wondering if you can help me identify it. A little bit of lag. Gemini, are you there?
Just like the Google demo.
I know. I don't want to be too silent.
Would you be seeing the image of the phone through your phone, or?
No, it's like I confused it or something. It's like it doesn't want to talk. It's being shy right now. Let's go ahead and end that and try again. So, and then it gives you this little kind of recap of that pointless conversation we just had. We're going to try this one more time. Now, Gemini Live right now does not have multimodal capability. Right now, it's just kind of a conversation piece. But, they were talking on the live stream or on the event last week about Project Astra. And I think that's what's headed here eventually, is that multimodal support. Let me try this one more time. And if it doesn't work, we can bag on it and go with something else. Hi, Gemini. How are you doing?
Hey there. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. It's always nice to hear from someone new. What's on your mind today?
Well, I have a phone sitting on my table, and I'd like to describe it to you and see if you can help me identify it. I have no idea what phone this is. Can you help me?
Absolutely. I can definitely help you figure out what phone you have. Try describing it to me, and I'll do my best to narrow down the possibilities. Feel free to tell me about its size, shape, color, and any features you notice.
Okay, well, I've got a lot of information for you. It is a standard kind of rectangular smartphone. On the front, it looks pretty nondescript. It has a Windows logo, a back arrow button, a search button. When I flip it over, the camera bump says 41 megapixel pure view Zeiss. It's kind of a circular black camera bump. And on the middle of the back of the phone has an insignia that says Android. Oh, and by the way, this phone is bright yellow. It is a screaming yellow color. With all this information, what can you tell me about this phone? What is it?
Okay, based on your description, it sounds like you might have a Nokia Lumia 1020. It definitely matches the bright yellow color, the high-resolution PureView camera with Zeiss optics, and the Windows Phone interface. Is that a possibility?
That's a possibility. I'm curious to know why this has Windows logo on the front and an Android logo on the back. Can you tell me why that is?
Yeah, that's That's a great question. Historically, Nokia used to make phones with Windows Phone, but at some point they switched to Android. So it's possible this phone is a bit of a mix. Maybe it was one of the last Windows models.
What year did it come from?
To run Android. Without knowing more, it's hard to say for sure.
Can you tell me what year this phone was released?
Nokia Lumia 1020 was released in July 2013.
July 2013. All right. Thank you so much. It was fun talking with you.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me help. Have a great day.
Okay, good.
Could you have taken a picture of it, Jason?
No, so that's the thing. Because there is no multimodal support right now, I can't.
Oh, there isn't yet. Okay.
That's the Project Astra that's coming somewhere down the line. When I did this demo for the video that I just published, I also identified some other phones and everything, kind of put it through its paces. It had a sort of a different answer as far as why this had an Android on the back and a Windows on the front, that it could be dual booted. It was a little more specific. It was like, yeah, this was, this is a Windows phone, but the kind of unique quality of this is that you could actually set it up to be dual booted into Android. And this one didn't quite go there, but I guess that just shows you that it's always kind of different depending on the information you get.
But I get how conversational it is. And you've always been using this enough already that the way you're interacting with it changes too, right? We're used to a more search box mechanism. And you were more conversational and it was more conversational.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the beauty of something like that. The latency is still long for my preference. And I think that's, over time that's going to come down. We saw a very short latency when OpenAI did its ChatGPT-O demonstration however many months ago. And that's going to be really important too. So being able to be conversational with this in a way to where I don't have to think about syntax and I also don't have to have those long, awkward pauses is going to go really far. Once that happens, and then Project Astra, that multimodal capability comes along, I'm super curious to see kind of how this technology builds out, because it's pretty promising so far.
I'm amused you're complaining about the latency. I had to go through the entirety of all knowledge about phones, and I came back to you, and you had to wait 2 seconds, you schmuck. Jeez. What do you want?
I know.
We get spoiled.
It's silly, like totally. Yeah. What is that? I'm thinking of some comedian that did the thing about, we still find a way to complain about all things, even though
you're on the plane and the Wi-Fi goes out and you're strapped to a piece of metal going through the sky and you're complaining that you can't get in connection with your grandmother for 2 minutes. Jeez.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, but my complaint isn't that, oh my goodness, I can't believe it can't give me the entirety of knowledge in 2 seconds. It's more from the perspective of when I talk to a human being, that perceived latency that we have in our communication is much shorter. And if there is a target that I think, companies like Google are putting in their crosshairs as far as technology is concerned, they're aiming to, in some ways, replicate that type of experience.
Yep.
And one of the ways that they're going to have to do that is that latency. And we've seen OpenAI prove that it can be done. It certainly can be improved, so we'll see it. I mean, it didn't slow, it didn't ruin the second version of this demo, maybe the first one, but I think it will improve.
I wonder whether they're going to add in
experience.
If they're going to add in fluff words. Well, gee, let me look that up while it's doing something so that it
nullifies
kind of
the
conversation. Yeah.
No, what you'll hear is,
yeah.
You ever make those calls and you do the voice, you answer with your voice and then you hear.
Well, one of my standard sticks as a teacher is somebody will ask me a good question and I will say, "Oh, that's a good question," which is how professors buy time to figure out an answer.
Yeah. Yes, totally. You also get that, by the way, when you interview executives from companies. Oh, well, that's a great question. I'm happy that you asked that. Yeah, totally. It's a strategy. I don't need to show off all of these features, but some of them are neat. We're going to be talking about AI image generation a little bit later in the episode, and one thing that you do get on here is Pixel Studio, which is essentially, it's kind of like a Mid-Journey. It's not a Mid-Journey, AI generation, image generation. It's not using Mid-Journey or Stable Diffusion or anything like that. It's Google's own thing, but it's the same type of thing, right? Like you could create a dog wearing a Googler hat or something like that. And I'm assuming it'll come back. It's usually pretty fast. It's all Google. You know, it doesn't get the words quite right, but it's image generation on your device. Yeah. It's not sending any of that to the cloud. It's all happening on device. Actually, the first time that you launch this app, really? It downloads the model to your phone right then.
If you turned off your Wi-Fi and cell right now, it would still work?
Yeah, it should, but we can go ahead and demonstrate this. So let's go into T-Mobile, turn off my mobile data. We'll go back over here, and I'll hit the try again button. Oh, no, you're right. Not connected to the internet. I had someone at the event tell me that this was all done without not in the cloud. But this puts some doubt on that. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so then I want to know if that's the case. Thank you for having me do that.
Yeah, how local
I want to know if that's the... Yeah, what? Because it downloads the model when you run the app for the first time. It actually it says it's downloading the generation model to your phone. I'm so happy you had me do that because that is really interesting. That totally goes counter to what I was told. So maybe I misunderstood. Maybe there's some sort of subtlety. Maybe the image generation is happening, but there's some sort of query happening for part of it. I don't know. I'm really confused, and now I feel like I need to reach out to Google and get some clarification on that.
And I wonder too when it comes to because I just don't understand model. We're so used to a database front end and database world, where that's the interaction, and this is not the case, right? But what does it need to return something to you? Does it need to say, I don't know what a dog looks like. Can you send me one so I can add that in here? I know it's a dog. It's all I'm going to ask you for is a dog. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea how that operates.
Yeah. Yeah. Neither do I. I'm so perplexed. I truly and completely expected for that to work based on what I was told at the event.
So we learned something.
We learned something new together, but there's a bunch of other features, something called Reimagine, which is a Google Photos kind of part of the editing suite in Google Photos. So you could take one of your photos that's like crooked, maybe it's lopsided, was the demo that they showed. The foot was like the shoe was cut off because the photo was cropped incorrectly. And you can say, auto frame this and it will automatically correct it and generate the missing part of the shoe. You could turn the ground into an ocean or into daffodils or whatever, things like that. So,
have you used
reality becoming more about imagination than anything else.
Sorry, have you used pixel screenshots?
Oh, yes, I have. Actually, pixel screenshots.
That's the one that everybody is eager for, yeah.
Pixel screenshots is something that I'm really, really excited about, actually. So I'm happy you brought it up. While I was at the event and I was talking to the guy who, the product manager, and I don't have his name right in front of me. I brought up to him that it reminded me of like an on-device personalized Pinterest. And he was like, oh my goodness, that's a great comparison. That's exactly what it is. Because what I've noticed with pixel screenshots and using it is it really does kind of change how you use screenshots on your device. So instead of screenshots being this disposable, like one time and move on with my life sort of thing, now I start using screenshots as a way to remember things long-term instead of just short-term, because you can go ahead and throw things into collections. So, this microphone that I was looking at, might go into music production, and then I can remember it later because I ran across an ad on Facebook for it. And, and if you're getting to these things from different places, then you end up getting, you can see the little Facebook logo down at the bottom of that. It remembers the linkages. So given that source still exists, it can take you back to the source from where you got that information. It just really kind of changes has changed my relationship with screenshots on my device and allows me to organize them. And not only that, like this is a gardening I can't remember what this was. This was a random screenshot from my history that I reprocessed. It couldn't process that screenshot. Could it do?
Well, you're also offline right now, right? Did you get back online?
Oh, well, yeah, but some of this stuff I already processed is the thing. See, like this was a screenshot of a recipe, but meanwhile, the screenshot doesn't have any of the recipe. It has that QR code. This is actually a really interesting example. But yet it was able to come up with the name of the recipe, tacos gobernador, which is a great recipe. I need to make that again. The author, the guy who created the recipe, it describes the image. A person is chopping green peppers on a wooden board. That might be great for accessibility use cases. And then it has the QR code, which it describes, but it contextualizes it more than just a simple image. It's
so one thing I'm curious about, Jason, is that this is for screenshots. That is to say, a freeze drying of your screen. Mm-hmm. I would almost want to be able to do that seamlessly with photos too. That I'm seeing in essence through the phone to something. I'd want to interact with that the same way I would interact with something that's on the screen, but that's not the way it operates. It only does screen saves.
Well, the screenshots app only does that. I do wonder.
I guess I could have my camera on and that'd be stupid. Do a screenshot of my camera. You just do an image.
Yeah, but if what you're looking for is kind of the descriptor of what it's looking at, I'm looking around my space to try and find something that I can throw in front of it to read. Let's see here. Pardon my God, I don't even know. Okay, so here's a a live streaming tool. So if I went to my camera, and actually I do need to put my internet back on, right? I need to give it data again. So we'll go ahead and do that so I don't confuse it. Okay. So now if I go to my camera and I position the image on my camera and I take a screenshot of it, boop, you can see that it flashed. That usually means that little thing that came up, that usually means that it's in the screenshots app and it's processing. Let's see here. So yeah, so now it's working. Okay. So I used the camera's pass-through to get it into the screenshot app. It's now working. It doesn't work 100% of the time. Sometimes it comes back and it's like, I can't figure it out. And there's no way when it does that I've found to like re-trigger it. It's just like, yeah, I don't know what to do with this. But in this case, it did. It says the product is the G-Stream M2 dual HDMI switcher, box design, black with white text and a red logo. Does it have a red logo? I see that. Nah, it's more like purple. Buttons on the switch. So it identifies the buttons on the switch, or at least it tries to. It doesn't get it perfect. Image on the box. What does that mean? A person with a yellow hat and a black jacket is sitting on a couch. Wait a minute. Oh, wait. Hold on. Could that be? No. Oh, that's so weird. I wonder how it came up with that. Wow, that was off the mark. Available modes. Oh, because it's also, okay, so this is describing, I don't know what the whole couch thing was, but it's also describing the camera elements in the screenshot. So yes, it's that, but it's also looking at this stuff, which is the control for the camera itself, photo, portrait, night sight. I mean, it's attempting to describe everything. So it says available modes, portrait, photo, night sight, PA. So... Yeah, it's everything mixed on the screen. It doesn't know what you're trying to identify, I guess. But anyway, so yeah, you can do that.
All right, thanks.
It's probably not perfect, but yeah. Anyways, there's other features. We don't need to go into all of them right now, but I did a full kind of walkthrough on the TechSploder YouTube channel. So youtube.com/@TechSploder. You get a little insight into the Pixel 9 itself. Jeff, I think if you watch it, you'll probably be like, okay, I could be down for that. Do you like a large phone or a small phone?
Large.
Yeah, so this is a little bit smaller. You probably then want to go for the Pro or the Pro XL.
Did they give you a loaner of the watch too?
No. This was it. And I'm not entirely certain, but if I want to review the other things, I might have to buy them, which is interesting because I don't know that I have the money to buy them.
It's not worth it.
But I want to play around with them, and I'll keep asking Google for a review unit. I mean, at this stage, it's the tool that I have is to get a review unit from them and borrow it for a bit to give it a spin.
Yep. So good. Thank you, Jason.
So we'll see. But yeah. So everybody check that out, and thank you for that. And in a moment, we're going to take a quick break, and in a moment, we've got a bunch of newsy stuff that has nothing to do with Gemini or anything like that. That's coming up. All right, from products to politics. Isn't that a fun transition? California's SB 1047 AI safety bill. We discussed this on the show last week. Got some pretty big adjustments, I think, shortly after the show. This happened on the 15th of August, so almost a full week ago. So right after we talked about it. Basically, they're looking at the concerns of AI companies and open source developers, and they've made some key changes, things like removing the Attorney General's ability to sue AI companies preemptively. They're also relaxing the certification requirements. They're adjusting the safety standards from, quote, reasonable assurance to reasonable care. I don't understand too deeply what the difference between those two things are. Maybe you do, but yeah.
Well, so Kevin Werbach, who's a really good professor at University of Pennsylvania Business School, which I'm suddenly forgetting, Wharton, and he has a Substack called The Road to Accountable AI.
Okay.
So Kevin wrote about this, how I learned to stop worrying and love the world's most controversial AI bill. And I saw it because David Weinberger, who's somebody I admire greatly, came in and said, "Oh, kind of, you convinced me, Kevin." I'm still not convinced, but there are changes in the bill that on the one hand seem better, on the other hand, only make it more vague. So for example, you used to have to sign a statement saying that you're certifying that your model is safe under penalty of criminal perjury. That's no longer the case. Good.
Okay.
So now you've got to exhibit a duty of care. Well, that sounds easy, but the problem with that is it's vague. Same problem that exists in UK online safety, formerly known as online harms bill, is a duty of care. It means, well, you should have tried harder. You should have seen this coming.
Where's the line there?
Yeah, it's really hard to enforce a law like that.
Yeah.
Which, to my mind, will probably make it unconstitutional, but I'm not a lawyer. Because it's kind of jumbling, trying to figure out how do we hold somebody responsible for this stuff. And again, what we've talked about in the show before is this still does it at the model layer rather than the application layer or the user layer. In the lasagna, in the Big Mac that is AI responsibility. And I think we've got to have a more wholesome discussion. I don't mean wholesome as in pure and lovely. I mean in the whole of it, of where responsibility might lie. It lay in given kind of wholesome lay. I'm getting all my language screwed up. In AI, and I'm not sure that we've thought this through enough to be able to figure that out yet. So a lot of people were saying the bill's a lot better. I think they had to change it so that they could get it through the governor, who was dubious. But there's still a lot of opposition to it. And I don't know what's going to happen. California legislature ends this month. So one way or the other, it's either going to get passed or not.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi also issued a press release coming out against the bill, calling it well-intentioned but ill-informed, more harmful than helpful, stifling innovation. Also mentioned pushing for a moonshot mentality to act as a model for the country to enable small entrepreneurs and academia, not big tech, to dominate. Moonshot mentality. What does that mean?
I'm not sure I know what that means. I think in a California sense, probably the people who are talking to her are leave us alone, effective accelerationism. Let us just do our job and you'll figure it out later. And each worldview has its issues, obviously. Regulate the hell out of it. Well, you really can't. Let it go. No, you really shouldn't. There is a middle ground to be found. It's not a bad discussion to have, but I think to rush into a law to think, because there's a certain hubris to think, well, I understand enough about AI now, I can make a law that regulates it. I don't think anybody does yet. And that will be seen. Some people can say to me, for what I just said, well, how irresponsible of you, Jarvis, to just let it go then. But no, there's still lots of laws in the books with lots of liability potential for all kinds of bad things that can happen and stuff. I don't know that AI is yet so special that it needs its own laws. The other interesting thing was, what was in the story, Jason? I lost it. there were some funny things to me is that it got rid of, oh, sorry here, folks. It got rid of like a commission and instead has a committee. I can't remember what it was, right? It no longer creates the Frontier Model Division, a new government agency formerly included in the bill. However, the bill still creates the Board of Frontier Models. What?
What's the difference?
And it's all inside the existing government operations agency. Interesting to me in this story too is that the way the TechCrunch positions it, the legislators took advice from Anthropic. So I don't know what made them so influential, except maybe they just tried and lobbied more and had more suggestions. But I found that really interesting.
Very, very. Okay, well, that's fascinating. Also has to do with, kind of politics, which don't come up on the show a huge amount, but boy, for those of you who are allergic to political and technological stories overlapping, I'm sorry, but the next story you might want to mute then. There's election deepfakes that we've talked about many times, that thing that we've all been told is a big threat to our democracy, that bad actors are going to use this against the will of the people to trick them into believing things about our governing bodies, our politicians that aren't real, that capitalizes on the reactive nature of social media, all this stuff that we've heard many times. But in this case, it's one of the candidates for the president of the United States spreading AI generated imagery showing Taylor Swift support materials for Donald Trump. So we've got kind of like a eye roll bingo card right here for certain listeners of this show. We got Taylor Swift, we got Donald Trump, we've got deep fakes, politics. You could practically spell out the word bingo on your card. But I think it's important to talk about the idea that, for all of the negative reaction or kind of warnings around how AI can be used to generate things that might be impactful in a negative sense on the election, that we have some people at the very high up engaging in this. And yes, it's Taylor Swift, so it's easy to roll your eyes and be like, oh, God, why are you guys even talking about this? But it is, that does have sway with a large amount of people. And everything in the images, from pictures of Taylor Swift, superimposed with a thing that says Taylor wants you to vote for Donald Trump, to pictures of women in large crowds wearing Swifties for Trump shirts. It was all generated. And if it was generated, then it didn't exist, but yet he felt the need to share it. I don't know. It's just stupid.
Yeah, they also have a picture of the Trump forwarded of the back of Kamala Harris addressing what would seem to be the convention, and there's a huge red communist hammer and sickle and red all around. It's obviously fake.
Yes. Well, that one's for sure. It's
clearly
cartoony. Yeah.
But an artist could have just as well sat down with a pen and ink and made the same thing. But because it was made by AI, people see more threat in it. There was another story this week, which I didn't put up in the rundown, but I think it's related just to this extent. Iran was found out to be using OpenAI to generate fake stuff for a few websites. And OpenAI found it and stopped it. Okay, so at the one level you think, foreign interference in the election, Iran, OpenAI, oh my God, what's going on? On the other hand, we all know how easy it is to go into OpenAI and say, write me a blank, draw me a blank. And just because AI did it for them doesn't make it substantively different, except perhaps for scale and speed, from what you could already do and what you should already be suspicious of anywhere in a world of social media. Again, not because the social technology is wrong, but because humanity has some liars in it. So I think because this Big Mac gets the pickles of AI in it. Oh, sorry, I was trying there.
I like it. I like that we continue on with this analogy.
Because you got extra onions on your Big Mac because it has AI onions in it. You think, oh my God, it's awful. It's poisoned. Yeah. It's still a hamburger. And so, yes, we got to be cautious. Yes, people have to be suspicious ever more of what they see anywhere. But the source matters more than anything else.
Yeah.
And for Donald Trump to act as if he's about to get an endorsement from Swifties, it doesn't matter what the image is. You should use your logic there and say, what's wrong with this picture, metaphorically speaking?
Right.
And so, I think it's
pictures.
I won't go so far as calling this moral panic, but I do think that we've got to draw back on this discussion because once again, it's going to lead to legislation. It's going to lead to somebody saying, you can't do this. Now, on the other hand, another story that's not at all the rundown is that Elon Musk and Twitter are in some deep trouble because of the riots that have been going on in the UK. Because there people were generating bad stuff. In that case, it was both Elon Musk's AI and Elon Musk's social network involved. And people are already, getting hauled into court because of what they're sharing. And there's freedom of expression issues there. There's all kinds of things there. So it's a really complicated world. And I think if we jump to the conclusion that, oh my God, AI is doing stuff, it's got to be worse. It's still humanity. It's still all the problems we've already had.
Yeah, that's very true. Do you think Taylor Swift is there going to be a Swift suit coming from Taylor on something like this? Because if you know anything about Taylor Swift, she's pretty opposed to Donald Trump. She is definitely not a supporter. She also happens to be one of the most visible, famous people on planet Earth right now. Would she have a strong case, do you think, if she was to say, hey, don't do this?
I'm not a lawyer and don't play one on the socials. Neither am I a epidemiologist. Neither am I a war expert, which we all tend to become instantly on social media. There could a use of likeness. Could be an issue here. Certainly, if you used her song without authorization, you see a lot of people are going after him for using songs they wish he didn't use. Very amusing is Celine Dion, and the song he picked was the Titanic song.
I missed that one.
And she went on social media saying, "No, I don't authorize you to do this." And that song, right? So there's copyright issues, there's likeness issues, but I don't think it'd be worth a court case. No.
Yeah, right. Is it worth squeezing the juice, as it were? Real quick before we move on, I do want to highlight the Ozone Nightmare. Thank you so much for your super chat.
Thank you,
Ozone Nightmare. As always, says Jeff, saw your Blue Sky post about how AIs do not learn on their own. An excellent survey underscoring, sorry, my eyesight, the importance of directing criticisms of those who control the tools, not the tools themselves. This really actually ties perfectly in with exactly what we're talking about.
Right.
Who's pulling the trigger, not necessarily what tool. Yeah.
And that story is in the rundown. Should we switch the order next two?
Let's do it. Yeah. Set that story up. Go.
What was really interesting. It was a story out of Bath University, I think it is. Of 3 or 4 researchers who wanted to look at the question of existential risk. And they came at it a different way to me, in which they said that they say straight out, there's no existential threat to humanity. The reason is because AI is not going to go off on its own. It's not going to go make up something and come up with its own goal to do things. And part of the reason that this leads to the fear, besides the general Tescriel, macho AI boys, I can destroy the world, chest thumping, is that people think that there were skills that they found in AI that are emergent, that this wasn't programmed in. How the heck did it come up with this? It came up with something completely different. If it could do that,
all powerful,
what else could it do? Right. And we get to the paperclip.
It has a mind of its own.
It will become single-minded and decide the paperclips are the only priority on Earth and everything else should be destroyed so I can make more paperclips, right? And what they said in the research here is, no, that these systems still learn and that we know how they learn and they stop at that and that they don't go off on their own. And if you're trying to think of something emergent, no, there's actually, you can kind of track that back. So I was glad to see this, and I'm sure that there'll be plenty of argument that says, well, you don't know what could come next.
Should I play the clip?
Sure.
I think you added a YouTube link. It's a pretty short clip, and I think I've skipped forward far enough in it for us to be able to hear what we need to hear. Let me unmute it and see if you can hear
models
this.
are able to do the things they're able to do. And so our work is a step in trying to better understand what underlying mechanisms there might be and what theories we can draw on to explain these capabilities. So we've come to 3 conclusions.
This is the
One, there's no existential threat that's posed by these language models. 2, the best way to use these models is to make the prompts as explicit and clear as possible. And 3, further scaling up these models is unlikely to change either of these 2 things. In other words, the bigger and more powerful they get, the better they get at following instructions, but they do not move towards being able to pose a threat to us.
And suddenly having a mind of their own, and they're taking
right.
over.
Right. No so I found this good and hopeful because it makes us question at least this existential risk presumption that comes out. I mean, there's so many logical leaps here. We're going to get to AGI, to artificial general intelligence, that it can do anything. That's the key. It can do anything. Oh, well,
anything.
How is it going to decide what to do? It doesn't really decide, but okay. So it can make paper clips. And then ergo, that is an existential threat. That's the leap that all the test grail boys are going to. That's what they argue. That has to be controlled. And the paradox there is, let us make this all-powerful machine.
Right.
But recognize how powerful we are in doing so. And so I like to see this leavening on that. So I thought it was worth sharing for that reason.
Yeah, it benefits them to say that these things could become all powerful because it puts them into the light of being so smart and so good and at what they do that they're even capable of creating something that could do something this powerful. And it just kind of turns out that's not the case.
So somewhat related to that, if we're talking about disaster and existential risk and everything, there was another paper that came out reported by livescience.com that said that an algorithm can predict tipping points for future disasters. So what struck me is, yes, there could be disasters, but those disasters can come from humanity. They can come from nature. They can come from other things where what AI does, I think we have to remember this, this made me think of it, is that it predicts based on prior experience, based on what it's been taught. It predicts word order. Here's the next word. Or it predicts behaviors of markets, or it predicts events. And it does that based on history. It's all it can have. It's all it has. And so it'll be associated with disaster. The AI says the world's going to blow up this way, right? But only because it's predicting what already happens on Earth, either through humans or nature. So I think that there's this association of AI with danger and disaster that I find fascinating. I'm trying to get my head around why that is. And I don't think, everybody hates social media. But it's not, and yeah, it could ruin an election, it can ruin democracy even, but it's less doom based. And when in fact, some of the technologies we've had before, internal combustion engines can cause more doom in the future than anything else. The doom that from AI may come from its consumption of electricity. But I'm just trying to figure out that association that I think is starting in the culture around AI and bad stuff, which I just find fascinating.
AI and bad things.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. I mean, the predicting the tipping point for future disasters study, I find that interesting because that kind of ties in, at least seems to me anyways, on the real strength of AI, which is, like you said, taking a look at large, data sets information. I like the way you put it, like looking at history, looking at what's happened before and predicting based on that. And, you know, in this case, it was 20 years of satellite data from 3 regions in Central Africa, that what the model was attempting to understand was the transformation of tropical forests into savanna, and using that previous, you know, like that rich history of data points to predict it for the future, using information on rainfall, on tree coverage of the 2 other regions. And they say, you know, that data accurately predicted, or the AI accurately predicted in the 3rd region, that, you know, when this would happen. 81% of the system nodes were used to come up with, was it 81% of the system nodes went unobserved? Okay, in this case, chunks of that land, to come up with its inference and to come up with its understanding. And so, you know, it seems to me that's what AI is really good at. It's taking all this information, getting some sort of a collective understanding of what it all means, given we've asked it the right questions.
Yeah, and then it can find inferences that we just don't see.
Maybe overlooked.
It can
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've seen this. There were some stories this year about breast cancer, that it can detect it much sooner than we otherwise would detect it. On the one hand, that can mean, are we going to overtreat, or does it mean instead that we can be more confident of our treatment as we go?
Right.
But all it's doing is finding inferences, making predictions based on past data. That's it.
Yep.
That our little minds alone couldn't do.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, and then we have Eric Schmidt, ex-Google CEO Eric Schmidt, talking to Stanford
students. Out of his mouth every other day these days.
Oh boy, yeah, right. Basically, he was talking. There was a video on the Stanford YouTube channel that has since been removed, by the way. The transcript has been preserved, where Schmidt says a number of things that were kind of newsworthy. He said that it was removed because of a comment he made about the pandemic, which was, quote, working from home was more important than winning the AI race for Google, according to Schmidt. The reason the startups work is because the people work like hell. Maybe there's some truth to that, I suppose. But he's saying that that's why the video was removed. But there were other things in there, also surmising that AI startups can, as Verge puts it, steal IP and hire lawyers to clean up the mess. That's one way of summarizing exactly what he was saying, which he was essentially saying, you want to create a hot new AI startup, like or no, I think it had to do with TikTok. If TikTok is going away, direct your AI model at the TikTok business model, learn everything you can, steal the users, steal the music, and then ask it to produce a program in the next 30 seconds, around that, release it. And in 1 hour, if it's not viral, do something different along the same lines. That's the command. Anyways, essentially making the argument that, stealing the IP is one way to go for people to get a successful tech career. I don't know. Am I missing something here?
Yeah, it was weird. He was talking to Eric Brynjolfsson's Stanford class, and I think he was kind of just showing off how to be Stanford University entrepreneurial macho, right? And he got in trouble, I think, very much so with Google, for basically accusing all the employees there, I will summarize in a way he didn't say it, of being lazy and working at home. And then the other hand, he's saying, if you guys would really work hard, here's what you could do. And it's funny to me, Schmidt comes from a certain time in Silicon Valley. And I'm not sure they don't prefer that time to what we have today, but his time, I think, is gone.
Yeah.
He also said, I found interesting, I don't know if it was the same class or not. He said that the main winner in AI is going to be NVIDIA because of the chips.
Oh, right.
But in that, he said, and I found this rather gutsy to say, or inconvenient, when Microsoft did the OpenAI deal, it was the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I think.
Did he give reason for that?
Well, because they were going to make OpenAI the leader in AI when Microsoft should be, or should have itself thought it would be on its own. And he kind of didn't get the deal. And I think Microsoft would agree to some extent because they're hedging their bets, right? They hired Mustafa Suleyman. They're doing their own division. They're doing other things because I think they recognize that their fate was in Sam Altman's hands. And from the moment when Sam Altman got kicked out, I think people in Microsoft said, "Oh, we're a little vulnerable here, not in our control." So Schmidt's not wrong, but it was a little undiplomatic.
He also said at one point during this whole conversation, "Don't quote me on that," which I'm sorry, it's a little late for that. You're kind of on a video.
Yep.
It's the nature of what you're doing here, Eric. I don't know what to tell you there. Got a few things to round things out real quick here. Pretty significant legal development with artists getting a pretty big victory in their copyright infringement lawsuit against AI art generators. This is the U.S. District Judge William Orrick allowing some key copyright and trademark claims to proceed against companies like Stability AI, Runway, Stable Diffusion, all of that. And the judge found that Stable Diffusion may have been, quote, built to a significant extent on copyrighted works and created with intent to, quote, facilitate infringement. Said the way a product operates necessarily invokes copies or protected elements of those works. And this could implicate other AI companies that have nothing to do with building the model, but happen to be using it, like DeviantArt's DreamUp as one example, as a firm that's using it that, had no part in its creation, but could be swept up in something like this.
Before we get to the last one, let me mention that Tommy D in the YouTube comments has answered my question. Seems like you need to enable offline mode in the developer settings for your phone. I guess that's what it's referring to. Enable the option to run on-device Gemini Nano right in your Pixel. Go to the developer settings, search for the AI core settings, press it, activate, enable on-device, which I'm sure you don't want to do all that right now. But that would be interesting.
I'll definitely try that
offline to experiment with and see what it'll be really interesting to me to see what it's capable of doing on the device alone.
Yeah.
Because it goes to not only to the power, but also to all the privacy questions.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I like I said, I was really surprised to see that didn't work, because I had the guy who was showing, who was part of the product lead. And again, I can't remember his name, but when I was at the event showing it to me, and I asked him specifically, is this running on device or off? He said, this is all entirely on the device. So that's really interesting. Thank you, Tommy D. I will absolutely try that. And I appreciate that. I'll look for that. I do have developer options enabled, so that'll be pretty easy to do. And finally, a couple of things that are more fun than anything. First of all, Runway Gen-3 Alpha Turbo, which to me sounds like a Street Fighter game.
I was thinking it was a race car, but yeah.
Latest version of its video generation model. 7 times faster generations. The Runway co-founder and CEO Cristobal Valenzuela tweeted, "It now takes me longer to type a sentence than to generate a video." You can go from prompt to a 10-second video in somewhere around 30 to 45 seconds. And you played around with this a little bit.
Yeah, it's very fast. So I just went in and looked for any photo, and I picked a stupid photo of myself when I was at the Rare Book School learning how to set type in the old-fashioned way, letter at a time. So I just took that photo in because it was the nearest I thought that you could animate in some way. And when I put it in, I had it crop the hell out of it because they wanted a very horizontal image. But so we're going to play the video in a second. And what you'll see is that image. And then you see there, play it again. It started, it skipped. Yeah. See if you can.
I'm trying to see if I can. Okay.
There
So
you
this
go.
is the beginning.
So if you start here, I got one hand in it holding the type.
All right.
And then it moves up, and suddenly the type reveals itself to be a circuit board, and another hand comes up. But note that my first hand now has only 3 fingers and 1 thumb. And I'm now holding a circuit board, and it's moving my mouth and lips as if I'm talking. Yeah. There's no sound, so it isn't.
And it's so funny because I know you so well, Jeff, and even just watching your lips in this thing move, I'm like, that's not Jeff. Yeah, like that doesn't look at all like how.
But I love how it goes to what it knows, right? The idea of Gutenberg movable type, it has no sense of what this is. So if it's going to animate it, it turns it into a circuit board.
Oh, it totally did. It just like completely morphs, right? It's line of type and then whoop. It's now a circuit
So
board.
what it imagines is under the surface of this thing has to be green with parts on it.
It must be modern technology. There's no way on earth. I don't even know what that is. Yeah, I wonder how much of the data set is, old school linotype stuff.
Not much. Not
much.
So,
You
but
can only imagine.
It was. I think it's cool that you can animate any photo. A, B. It is really fast.
Mm-hmm.
C,
so it didn't take very long for you.
Not at all. No, you may lose a finger along the way. Ouch. But actually, I didn't lose it so much as it merged two of them.
Yeah.
It became this one big whale-like bulbous finger. And I had to watch it about 10 times before I recognized what's wrong with it. Oh, yeah. Because you have to think to look at what it does with hands. And then it made up a hand for me, which was interesting too. So anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
That's
another
so
cool tool out there. And
Love it.
I hope
And it
soon,
creates long clips too, is my understanding. Like 10 seconds. Is that the length of these clips?
I think that's what these are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wrote a syllabus for a class that I might be teaching at another university coming up about creativity and AI. And so I'm now starting. I'll be coming to you, Jason, asking for a lot of your advice on this, because I'm looking for tools like this the students can use to create for their own self-expression, to do things they couldn't otherwise have done. So I'm really interested when I see coming across these tools these days, especially the ones that are free you can try. Because students can't pay.
Yes, and that is important
month.
to point out that tool does have kind of a free tier. You get a certain number of free credits that you can play with and test it out. So very cool. I appreciate that. I love that you created something. You also created something with this next and last thing, Google's Imagine 3. I think that's how you pronounce it. Or is it Imagen? I think it's Imagine 3 text to image generation tool. It got an update, a big update that we first heard of at Google I/O earlier this year. You can get to it via AI Test Kitchen, which is a Google site that has a bunch of its AI kind of projects, kind of works in progress at this point. Better detail, richer lighting, fewer distracting artifacts, according to the article. And you can also, by the way, highlight a part of the image and tell what you want to change with that particular part. So that's kind of neat. And you created something. What was the?
I was in Gutenberg mode. Not surprising for me. Have a drink, everybody. And so I just asked it to. I said a man hand setting type letter by letter and a composing stick for the letter press long before the linotype and computerized typesetting. I was thinking of the other image. He's middle-aged with a white short beard, wearing a blue printer's apron and a paper printer's hat. And then it didn't get the composing stick. It just had so I went back and I added, when using a composing stick, a printer stands at a type case and picks up each letter with his right hand and puts it in the composing stick, which he holds in his left hand. It couldn't get that. It just didn't understand that. So it's just a rather portly guy wearing a blue apron with a white beard. The funny thing was, I should have shown you all the images. It made 100 different views of a printer's paper hat. This, for those of you who are on video, is a printer's paper hat, which in the old days used to be made out of a piece of newsprint, right? And they would wear this to keep their head clean while they were working on the presses and stuff. And then when kids would come to the newspapers, they would make this to wow them. They could walk away with it. So that's the thing with printers. So this is a printer's paper's hat. So the computer made really creative ones. This one has kind of a swoop on it. And, in text, we'd call these.
It's got a visor. This one has a visor.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how the hell you'd fold that. It's a hell of an origami.
Yeah. You could wear this outside and it'll protect you from the sun, sort of.
Maybe it's a good invention. We should patent that. I think. But here too, I think the image quality was good. It was fast.
Yeah.
It's getting better. But the thing about all AI that we have to keep in mind, it cannot know reality. It has no way to tie to reality, to understand what would be truthful and not. This is not a hallucination. It's that it doesn't have any experience. And it can't have any experience.
Maybe what's actually going on, and we just haven't figured it out yet, is that AI, generative AI like this, it's not that it's creating things like it doesn't know reality. It's creating a different reality that we don't know exists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Matrix time. Oh.
Yes, exactly. Somewhere the other side of the
There's not just a red pill and a blue pill. There's a green pill.
Oh, thank you. That's so amazing. I love it. The hat makes me laugh and makes me happy. Jeff, thank you so much for doing the show with me each and every week. This is a lot of fun. Gutenberg parenthesis, of course. I feel like, did you have some news that's hitting here? Or
well, so I'm Monday, I hope to deal with son Jake to get the new site up. But my next book, called The Web We Weave, there's a green book over my shoulder over there, but it's way too far back to see. Why We Must Reclaim the Internet from Moguls, Misanthropes, and Moral Panic will be out in October, but the discount code for pre-ordering just came up. It's Web20. So if you Google The Web We Weave me and you go to the publisher's site, Basic Books, if you feel so inclined, and I would feel so grateful, you could order it and just use the Web20 to get 20% off.
Nice. Excellent. That's what I had heard of.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Jeff. Good stuff there.
Thank you, Jason. Always fun.
Yeah.
And I want to plug Jason once again that he covered the Google event with the Pixel and had all kinds of videos about the individual features, but also did a great, I don't know, I'd call it a travel log. What would you call it? It was the whole day.
It was really it was a vlog style approach. I really, when I was kind of going into my Made by Google day, I had this thing which was showing Jeff in pre-show, which is maybe a little too behind the scenes for some of the viewers, but it's an Osmo Pocket 3. It's like a 4K handheld, really easy on the go camera for vlog style recording. And I used it for the event. And so, it's really, a lot of it is kind of what it's like. Well, I'm showing an ad now, but what it's like to go to an event like that and see what I saw and be involved with it and everything. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It was a different style of video and I enjoyed it and I got a lot of positive feedback from it. So if you do want to check that out, you can find that at the TechSploder YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TechSploder, as well as my video that published today about the Pixel 9 and all of the AI features. I went into detail on a lot of that stuff there. So just go to that page, search for it. Of course, you can also get our video, the video version of this show on that page, which we record live every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And if you don't want to see this in video and you just wanted an audio, I recommend you go to AIinside.show. That is the webpage with all the information for the podcast. So you can subscribe to the audio podcast, and we appreciate if you do that. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't point out the Patreon. That's patreon.com/AIinsideshow. You can join so many patrons who support us each and every week, who get special perks like ad-free shows, early access to videos that have something to do with AI on the TechSploder YouTube channel, a Discord community, regular hangouts. You also get, by the way, an AI Inside t-shirt. That's something that you want. You can become an executive producer at that level, and you'll get a t-shirt. And you will also get your name read at the end of the show, like Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, WPVM 103.7 in Nashville, North Carolina, and Paul Lang.
Yay. Thank you all.
Yay. Thank you all so much. And thank you so much to everyone, even outside of the Patreon, for supporting and watching this show. We will see you next time in another episode of AI Inside. Bye, everybody. See ya.